Gathering is a stitch that is used to make a large part of the fabric a smaller part of the fabric. Where you will often see the gathering is in a skirt, on sleeves, often around the neckline. And so we are going to look at two different types of gathering. The one is the machine gathering. The second is the hand gathering. Machine gathering is completed by setting your stitch length regulator on your sewing machine at the longest stitch. If you take your seam gauge and measure, what you will find is that is normally 6 stitches per inch. But you want the stitch long so that these threads will move easily when they are pulled up. When you begin to gather, you will want to leave some long threads so that you have a nice tail to hold on to the fabric and the thread once you start to gather. When we begin to stitch, you are going to put your stitch length selector on the biggest stitch. You are going to put the presser foot against the edge of the fabric, and you are going to make a row of stitching. The machine is going to move faster than your normal stitching, and so you are going to want to put a bit of tension on your fabric so that it does not become crooked or does not ball up under the feed dog. Leave long threads at both the beginning and the end. Once you have the first row of machine stitching into the fabric, you are going to put your presser foot then against that row, and the second row will come up approximately 2/8 of an inch below that. All of that should be done between the edge of the fabric and the seam allowance, so that if you are doing a skirt or any kind of a sleeve, that all of the gathering is encased within the seam allowance. Once you have the stitching in, you will remove it, of course, from the machine, and then you are going to want to have both of your bobbin and your needle threads on the same side of the fabric. What you will do is to simply take one of the threads, tug on it just a little bit, it will give you a little loop, and you pull both threads through then to the wrong side of the fabric. And you will do that for both of your rows of stitching. You will then take between your finger and thumb the bobbin threads, that would have been stitched on the bottom side, and you are going to hold them close to the stitch. If you hold it way out here, the likelihood of you breaking the stitch is going to be very great. Hold it close to the first stitch and very gently begin to pull your stitches up. As your fabric begins to shrink inside, continue to move your thumb and finger so that you are constantly holding your stitches close to the fabric. You do not want to be way out here. When you reach the other end of the fabric, then you are going to want to measure to get the appropriate size. If you look at the sample, what you are going to do is to take your 6 inches of fabric and you are going to reduce that to 3 inches. And the easiest way to do that is to take a tape measure and stand it on end. The fabric now is curved, and so your seam gauge is going to be difficult to use. Measure it. What you will do when it is 3 inches, you will then take your threads and tie together your bobbin thread and your needle thread in a small knot. Just as when we cut off our thread with the other stitching that we've done on our seams, you want to clip close to the knot, but you do not want to clip too close or it will come unraveled. We then want to, once the ends have both been tied off, then what we need to do is to distribute our gathers evenly so that you don't have a clump of gathers in one spot and nothing in another spot. That is then the way that we take care of doing the gathering, making a large piece fit a small piece. The second type of gathering that we're going to do is hand gathering. There may be a time that, again, your fabric is very fragile and it will simply not, on a single layer of fabric, fit through the feed dog. And so what you're going to want to do this time is to thread a double needle and thread. You're going to put the row of hand gathering in the same place that you would put it if you were doing machine gathering, and it is simply an in and out motion. The smaller that your stitches are, the tighter that your gathering will be. The longer that your stitches are, the farther apart the stitches will be. When your row of gathering is all the way in, you are going to simply leave the needle and thread threaded and go ahead and take a second needle and thread, put your second row of gathering in, and then you will do identically the same thing. You will pull it up until it reaches the measurement that you want. Make your normal hand knot just like we did in some of the other stitching that we've done, and you will have then hand gathered your sample.